Okay, so this is the second time I had to do this video. The first time I did it in such a way where we started out with everything all finished, and then I kind of explained everything. Unfortunately, for some reason, the audio in that video didn't record. So this is the remnants of the end of that other video. So we're just going to do this as a more traditional where we'll walk through and show you all the steps. So first off, we're dealing with this adapter. This goes into the Wi-Fi slot, the A&E slot. This will give 2 additional SATA ports that allow you to, of course, then add 2 additional drives to your system. This video will cover this one. We will then have a follow-up video that will use this. This one uses the more traditional M.2 slot. This is going to give you 5 additional SATA ports, and we'll do a video showing how this works. We'll have probably then a third video in which I take all of this and show how to set it up as, so you can do a NAS. Primarily as a way so that I could replace the one that I have already working in a prior video which used USB drives. Okay, so we've got this guy. We're going to first add him. I already took out my Wi-Fi card. And let's put that in there. I'm doing this on a EliteDesk 800G3. And the reason I went with the G3, a number of reasons. One of them that as far as the being able to have the connector goes, so that it goes parallel to the board as opposed to perpendicular. I figured that might be a little easier as far as routing of the cables. The big one, though, was the caddy, and it would give me a lot more space and also still allow me to put in another 2230 NVMe drive. I'm using this as my boot drive so that then I can run 3 drives externally in this kind of pseudo enclosure that I purchased, and we'll get to that in a little bit. The other nice thing with the G3 is that cost. You can find a lot of G3s out there because they don't natively support Windows 11. I think a lot of companies are probably starting to really dump them onto the market, and so you can get a nice unit and not have to spend the same maybe money on, let's say, a G4. We'll see when we use the other connector or the other adapter to see if that might work better with the G4. You will have to remove the Flex IO in order to have enough space for the cables. There's still a gap here, but I figure I'm going to need that much space if I'm going to add even more drives with the other adapter. You're going to need, I'm going to try to move this sort of back into place here. One of the reasons you want to keep the caddy, or a big reason, is that if you don't have the caddy, you're going to have this SATA cable just sort of, just hanging out there, and it's very easy when you're moving cables around for that to get detached, ripped. You want something stable. So by having the caddy, we're going to screw into it and then be able to stabilize it, and then I'll show how that's connected. You may, when you're moving all these cables, because these are already kind of, in place, ready to go, you may need to take out the heat sink to have a little more space. Very likely you want to disconnect this cable, which is for the your fan, and then you can put it back in. Let me put this back laying in here. Now, some goals when I started doing this was, number one, it had to be powered by the unit itself. And unfortunately, there's only one place that there's power, and that's this connector here. Well, technically, this connector here. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to be able to run external drives, just off of that one? I was able to find a little gizmo that through one connector, you can get up to 6 power connectors for your SATA drives. And in this case, I'm running 3 of them. But most likely I'd be able to run, even more. So that was one goal. Okay, how do I get power? I didn't want to have any additional power connectors. The other thing is I wanted to be able to get everything nicely in here and still be able to put the lid on the top, because I didn't want to have to cut the lid and so forth. I wanted to keep it nice. I wanted to be able to have something that I could even put up on its side, and then have on the side, I wanted something that could hold the drive. So I found this. I think normally this would probably go inside more of a PC, but it was just a simple cage that could hold 4. I think I've seen some that could hold 8 too, but I figure for this, I just start out with the 4. So let's see if we can. What I'm going to do first is try to get this caddy kind of back in its spot here. Oh, before I do that, SATA cables. So you're going to probably want to have 2 kinds. Both of them are going to be with this right angle. But what you want is one of them to have a much smaller head than the other. And the reason being is that when I connect them, they're going to kind of be sort of, this one needs to be able to pass over the top of the other one. So that's why this one's got one of those little latch types. So you have to be a little careful with it. And that's why also you'd want to have it the farthest one, so that way if you needed to, you could kind of press on this to be able to unlatch it. Okay, let's put at least this screw in so that we can stabilize it a little bit. Oh, keep forgetting also. Let's move this out of the way. You may have to bend this bottom portion ever so slightly to be able to run the cables, so that way, because without it, it gets, you just can't fit them all in there. Okay. And I'll include the particular cables and adapters and connectors that I ended up buying. I bought a lot of different ones in my quest to find just the right. The one that I found to be the biggest challenge was the length of the cables. And I ended up going with pretty long ones, like 18, 20 inch, so that way I didn't want to have this too close to the unit. And a lot of the adapters I first started experimenting with were only like maybe 6 to 8 inches long, and it just barely, after I kind of snaked everything through, got through on the side. And then you're getting, it's hard to add anything, USB and power and network. It just gets very tight. So I wanted to be able to have that off to the side, especially also if I decided to use more drives in my external. So okay, so we've got this. Let's and okay. So I'm going to stick and connect first. Yeah, we might as well put this on here. Where's our connector? Okay, so now it's nice and stabilized. What I'm using here, I needed a way to split the data from the power. And so I had this adapter, but this adapter is not going to connect to the other because they're both assuming that you're going to a a drive is being connected here, or it's going on to, let's say, a motherboard or something. So got one of these, I guess we call it gender changer. And when you connect it here, then it's got all the connectors on the other side so that it can go and connect into the one coming off of the unit. But before we do that, let's add in our SATA cables. So I'll go here. When you buy these, make sure these right-angled ones are going to work on here, because they sell different sort of two sets, because either they're flipped this way or they're flipped the other way. So you want to look at the head and make sure that in the picture that the notch is on the right-hand side here, not on the left-hand side, which means it goes the other direction. So that way it will snap right in. And then this one, I have to give myself a little bit of slack there and connect on the side. Okay, so it's still nice and below the top of the cage. Then we can move this, and you may have to experiment. It may be a case where it's better to put these afterwards or before, but your main goal, or your should be, that you can close this and it doesn't feel like a bunch of stuff is sticking up, so that way you'll be able to get the top case on. Okay, so that's going through there. Then what happens over here is this splitter comes along. This becomes the SATA cable or data cable that is, it's hard to see here, but let's see. Actually, let's move this. Okay, so this cable is this one coming off of here, and then this whole set of wires comes around and connects in to this sort of multiplier that can do up to, with one connection, it can do up to 6 power connectors. And then that's how these are set in here. Then we've got, so we'll stick this back in, connect here. You do have a lot of extra cable. That's why I kind of wrapped this around, because this adapter here is pretty long. I think it's listed as being 20 inches. And then these SATA cables are also 20 inches. Before I put the cover back on, a couple things to note. You won't be able to boot from the drives that come off of here. I tried various combinations, and what's even odder is that you need to have secure boot on in order to boot from this drive when it's connected, and when you have this adapter in here. It seems to, be that right combination, but that's fine. What I'm probably going to do is not boot off of any of these externals and just use the M.2 that's in here. And I'll be showing some video right after this in which I boot into Windows, do some speed test with both a normal SATA SSD and also with the mechanical drive. Actually, the mechanical drive first and then followed by the SSD. And you'll see that the speeds are comparable to what you would get if you stuck them in here. So let's put the top back on. Let me show you what it kind of looks like from the back. Okay. Yeah, you may have to deal with dust and such, and perhaps you could probably get some sort of foam to stick in here or to wrap around these cables and maybe cut down on dust. I'll see what happens after I put in more cables, if there's something that might work in there. This is our external. And even if I were to put this on its side, it looks pretty nice. Yeah, there's a lot of wires back there, but it's staying together. Or you could, put it on top if you wanted to. Okay, here we are inside of Windows 11, running off the 2230. Let's go into Device Manager, and we'll show you that we have 4 drives. Okay, so the NVMe, that's what we're booting from, and then these are our 3. We've got 2 Western Digital and one of the HTST, and yeah, so we've got it set up. Let me show you in. We go into File Manager here. So this is our boot. These are the 2. The reason that not all 3 are there is the other one is a Proxmox drive, so it's not formatted as something that Windows can see. If we were to go into Disk Management, we would actually see the 4 drives. This is here's the boot. This is that Proxmox boot drive, and then these are the other 2 here. May wonder, okay, well, what about performance, on these guys? If I run Crystal Disk Mark and we pick, let's see, yeah, we'll just pick one of the drives here. If we run this, we'll see that the numbers are comparable to what you would see if you were directly, connected, I guess, internal. These, of course, are mechanical drives, so they are going to be slower. But you could just as easily throw in your normal SATA SSDs in there and get the same sort of speed. Okay, you can see the numbers are very similar to if I had just put the drive internal. I'm actually going to go ahead, shut this down, and throw in an actual SATA SSD, and let's run the same test and see what kind of speed we get. Okay, so I went and swapped in a actual SATA SSD, and if we look, device manager, I also disconnected the Proxmox one. It was it's just too, since everything's, anyway. So here's our T-Force, and if we look in the drives, it's going to be this guy, this F. So let's try running disk mark. And we've got the F, and we'll run it. So these numbers, look basically the same as what you would get if you had an internal SATA SSD. So that's pretty good. And this, of course, running off of the adapter connected to the Wi-Fi slot. So let's, just want to kind of show you how this was set up, or, just prove that everything works as far as Windows, etc.